So actually in my final year at Warwick University, I fell really, really ill a few days before one of my final exams. And it was an intense flu, I was throwing up, I had an intense fever. I phoned up my department, they said you need a doctor's note. At that stage I rang up the health centre trying to get a GP appointment and it was impossible. We don't have any availabilities for a couple of weeks. If you call in the morning at 8 o'clock, maybe we'll give you an emergency appointment. Finally managed to get an appointment, paid maybe 70 quid return on a taxi to get there. Threw up in the taxi, which I had to pay for as well. In the end, it turned out the doctor's note I got wasn't even good enough. So I thought there must be an alternative for people who need access to a GP in a timely fashion.
Right, here's a little bit of fun here for you.
What the fuck? Business edition. In today's show, we look at HealthClic and what it aims to present, and its function and what it does on a day-to-day basis.
So HealthClic is an online platform for GP home visits where they'll state their availabilities, specialties, interests, maybe even languages spoken, and patients will be able to browse through the profiles and choose the GP they would like for a home visit on the same day or even slightly in advance. We're going to start with a weekend pilot service.
And that concludes today's What the Fuck Business Edition. Now, the normal thing to do in this situation would be to continue the discussion of the business, what it does, what it provides, what it hopes to provide, whereby it becomes this not so subtle attempt at promoting itself.
Do a promotion, like buy one, get one free.
What?
Buy one, get one free.
Huh?
Buy one,
Yeah, I get that.
get one free.
Is that like a Spanish word?
Promotion, 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 promotion. But this will never ever be done on this show. There will be no product endorsement here or here. Chasing Unicorns was created as an avenue to discuss important ideas which were normally sidelined by mainstream discussion. What HealthClic and its founder Priyanka provide is an opportunity to discuss HealthClic's position at the intersection of healthcare and technology, but also extracting her ideas and opinions on startups, entrepreneurship, and most importantly, independent thinking. To wit, this segment of the third episode of Chasing Unicorns will be called HealthClic for Reals. The part of the show where we find out what makes HealthClic founder Priyanka tick and show you the world of startups, entrepreneurship, Google, Armani suits, Facebook social things, or something to that effect. But really, we get to understand the important ideas and discussions going on in the healthcare and technology industries, how you might be affected by this, as well as some ideas and advice if you want to go into this industry. But as Lawrence Krauss once suggested in one of his many debates, the goal of any discussion of any ideas is to encourage people to utilize their ability to question anyone's claims and exercise due diligence to substantiate those claims. It's how did you jump to the idea?
Yeah.
The problem you saw into actively producing a plan to make a solution.
So after that ridiculous experience, I completed my final exams. I had already applied for a course at the University of Cambridge called the Postgraduate Diploma in Entrepreneurship, and everyone on that course either has a business or is starting a business, and I thought this could be something that I could jump straight into. I went into the first week of the course, mentioned my idea, because I thought, wouldn't it be great if in that situation I could choose a doctor who I'm comfortable with, therefore would get good service from, to come to me. And that's when I came up with the idea of having home visits from GPs all in one place. And I just went and got some feedback from my colleagues on the course, and from there I realised that this was what I was most passionate about.
What's your day-to-day kind of roles at the moment consist of?
So it really changes things from marketing efforts to sorting out regulatory hurdles, studying, just going out and speaking to people who might use the service and to doctors. I think that's probably the most important part, and recently I've been going around giving presentations to doctors in London as well. I think it was really difficult at the beginning because when you're at, let's say, university, you're with a cohort of people who are all going through the same thing as you, and you're kind of on that journey together. Obviously this is completely different. I don't know exactly what my next week will look like, apart from a few meetings here and there. I think at first I really did struggle with that. It's not something that you can jump into really easily, because you have to be able to motivate yourself to get up each morning, go out and do what you need to do. And some days won't be as packed as others. People, and it sounds a bit cliche, but a lot of people do meditate, work out something every morning just to get them into that mindset. And I think now I've really started to embrace the change and flexibility, and I'm a lot more used to it.
Why now has technology and startup culture really honed in and focused on healthcare as an issue?
When new technologies and new ways of thinking come about, you want to try it out on less risky industries first to see how it goes. Whilst I'm not saying that you can easily transfer it to something like healthcare, I think there's ways to apply it appropriately to this industry, which clearly needs a lot of change, not only to support the rising aging population, but also the increasing demands of people in the UK. I mean, as I mentioned already, there's a lot of people who are very time poor nowadays. It's happening all around the world. It's work, things being thrown at us. There's a lot of noise. That's why I suppose there's more focus on health, well-being, even fitness in today's day and age. So I think the natural extension would be to try and use health tech to make it a lot easier for people. I think not corporations won't help, but I think entrepreneurs and people out there who really care about the issue and who care about finding a solution and presenting a way to solve the problem, I think they'll be the ones who will drive most of the health technology forward. That needs to be encouraged.
There really is no doubting the importance of science, technology and rational thinking to the future of humans, and specifically to the future of the healthcare industry. However, technology and technologists have always been a community in and of themselves. Whilst made up of inventors, innovators, entrepreneurs and experimenters from across industries, this group in the modern day has to a large degree separated themselves from mainstream society. Thus, the issue of accessibility is a very important one, not only in terms of practicality, for example funding, but also culturally. Those who are part of this community, those who benefit from the buzz and hype around places like Silicon Valley, who work in their own groups, companies and organisations, who ignore the digressions of the outside world. Whilst their process and lifestyle is admirable, the inner workings of places like Silicon Valley remain elusive. Chasing Unicorns wanted to utilise Priyanka's position within this community to provide valuable insights and information into this culture and into the mindset of people who work in this community day in and day out. Those who are committed to both improving the world, but also living a life that is fulfilling to them. To understand the relationships, connections and culture within this community, I asked Priyanka to talk to some of her friends who she considered mentors, aides, those people who actually helped her gain an understanding of the industry, also helped her convert her idea into a reality. This led me to two mentors, one in London and the other in Cambridge.
Darling, you send me, I know you send me. Darling, you send me, I know you send me. Darling, you send me, I know you send me. Darling, you
It's filming.
Okay, so my name's Tom. I'm a postdoc in the biochemistry department in Cambridge. I'm part of a lab in the department, and the lab has developed some technology. And I'm doing the course because I'm starting a business based on some technology that we've made in the department.
Because one of the questions I asked Priyanka was, I think we're always told that we can do anything, right? But are we genuinely in an age of innovation?
Especially in pharmaceutical, there's this move recently away from big companies, big pharmaceutical companies building everything. Yeah, maybe 20 years ago, things started to change. People were producing hormones and antibodies, and this required a whole new type of technology. And this sort of stuff was developed in university labs before it was developed in the companies. So these new technologies started coming out of university labs and places like that by entrepreneurs, and then now the whole system is really changing quite a lot from how it used to be. A lot of the big pharmaceutical companies, a lot of their investment is done not in internal R&D, it's actually done in looking for companies that are coming out of universities. The question is never sort of, is this physically possible? When they were designing Facebook, for example.
Welcome to Facebook.
You know, the idea was, okay, we're going to connect people via a social network or Twitter. When we do it, will anyone want it? That's the question. Is there a market demand? For sort of biotech and other sort of hard science questions, it's often flipped the other way around. So the question is, can we actually do it? And these things are really, really, really tough to do. The world we live in now, this is like the malady of our times. Is, you know, people live 9-to-5 jobs, but a lot of people do not like their jobs. The paradigm of the world at the moment is you should take as much holiday off as you can, and 5 o'clock I'm going to go home. From my perspective, if you're doing something you enjoy, then, I mean, that's sort of old chestnut, isn't it? If you do something you enjoy, you don't really work. But if people are actually doing something that they enjoy, then we'd forget the idea that the desirable thing in life should be getting home and relaxing, doing things that they enjoy, not just collapsing on the sofa. And that's what a hobby is ultimately, you know.
When I think of passion, it's very vague to me, and that's why I think you need to link it back to interest. Because if you're not doing something you're interested in, whether you're passionate about it or not, this is the thing I want to get through to people, that I think the important thing is, especially at a young age, you two are a part of a community, a worldwide community, who develop a focus very early on in their lives.
But I think it kind of leads from interest to passion to focus. On a personal level, is really think about what matters to me, sort of on the grander scheme of things, rather than just, oh, this is a business I want to start up, how am I going to do it? It's made me think, what's my end goal? Understand myself better and my own strengths. We need a selfie!
My name is Adkins. I'm a student on the postgraduate diploma in entrepreneurship at the University of Cambridge. I've started several small companies, some of which are profitable, some of them are in the concept stage, some are quite well established. If you look at where a lot of growth is coming from, it's in the give back economy, putting the consumers back at the beginning of the cycle. Even crowdsourcing has started to happen with the medical industry. In terms of adventure, I think it's definitely very interesting. And already we've started to see some trend of hands-off clinicians, where it's slightly more hands-off and it's more preventative. It goes down to becoming more efficient, and that's what the health service needs. So lots of people are going to be looking for services just like this in the future. So it takes a lot of pressure off the healthcare service, and it takes a lot of pressure off limited resources that we have. I think there's a huge amount of resources available for young entrepreneurs. There's more access to venture capital than there's ever been. There's more access to crowdfunding and things like you mentioned, Kickstarter, which is a great method of pre-ordering products as well. There's even a huge amount of grants available. The problem, I would say, is they're not aware of grants, they're not aware of access to funding, they're not aware of some of the resources available to them. In terms of, is it possible? Yes, 100% I think it's possible. I would say the most important mindset is drive and self-confidence. And you talk about limitations that people might have. Often we doubt ourselves in our ability to go and approach successful entrepreneurs. We perceive as being very successful in the industry, multi-millionaire, billionaire. Often we won't want to go and approach that person because we think we're inadequate. And that's actually rubbish, that's such a fallacy. So never hold yourself back because you think you're inadequate. Never hold yourself back because you think you can't approach people or you can't go certain places. No problem. Yeah, sorry to have to run off.
Both of these guys provided two different perspectives on entrepreneurship and on the wider technology community. Whilst they both affirm the idea that the community is focused on innovating where the demand appears, where Tom talked about social conventions within society, Ollie provided a more logistical and operational viewpoint, providing information on resources but also dispelling myths about status, emphasising the fallacy associated with working with people much more accomplished than yourself. And apparently it gets you to a very high building in London.
Don't worry. Any mistake is an income, is a wonderful revenue for you. So I tell myself and told my young people, before 20 years old, be a good student. Before 30 years old, follow somebody. You learn the passion, you learn the dreams. You learn how to do a lot of things at one time. So before 30 years old, it's not which company you go, it's which boss you follow. It's very important. A good boss teaches you differently. From 30 to 40 years old, you have to think very clearly, you're working for yourself. When you're 40 to 50 years old, so 40 to 50, think about how can you focus on things that you are good at. But when you are 50 to 60 years old, work for the young people because young people can do better than you. Over 60 years old, spend time for yourself. On the beach, sunshine.
Jack Ma, the founder and executive chairman of Alibaba Group. He has become infamous for many things, including the fact he was rejected from Harvard 10 times, rejected from a position at KFC, but also creating a $25 billion e-commerce company credited with bringing China into the global internet commerce market. What makes Jack Ma's ideas on life, entrepreneurship and careers that much more interesting and relevant to unicorns is how it is so relevant and specific to young people.
What the hell is he talking about?
Ma suggests that between the ages of 20 and 30, people should enjoy the process of making mistakes and prioritize learning over anything else. Between the ages of 30 and 40, working for yourself and getting the skills to focus on are important. Between the ages of 40 and 50, those skills acquired should be focused and developed. 50 and 60, young people must be the priority because they can do things better. Ma's ideas on creation, the importance of making mistakes, the need to follow interests are so important because they tap into some of the most interesting philosophical questions relevant to young people. Wendy. I thus pose some of these questions to Priyanka.
I think HealthClic's a really good example of that. So whilst obviously I'm creating something for myself, I'm not expecting any pay for the foreseeable future, but I think it's also an opportunity for doctors to create something for themselves. And I think to give them that platform to say, be your own business. Through this platform, you can access more people and you can take control. I think that's a really important element of HealthClic. And secondly, creating this for other people. So for the mother, on a Sunday evening, her kid has a really high fever and she's really worried. I think to have that option for immediate care and that option for peace of mind is really valuable, not only for the business, but it's really important to me. That's what I'd like to see. To answer the question, I guess it's at the forefront of my mind and it's something I'd like to incorporate into future businesses too. I have to completely agree with the fact that you should make the mistakes now. For some reason, a lot of negativity surrounding making mistakes. Everyone's like, oh, I don't want to fail. But at the same time, failing is the way you learn and build something new. Failure just tells you which road you shouldn't be going down, then you can change it. I think each to their own. If someone's happy with that 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 job and that's exactly what they want out of life, then yeah, go and do that. Personally, I'm not one of those people. I definitely would like to strive towards a bigger purpose, and I like to look back on my life and say that I've actually created something and made a difference. I think it's great to see that a lot more people are thinking like that and being brave enough to think like that. But of course, if that's not for you, then that's not for you. It's completely up to your own judgment. So I think there shouldn't necessarily be that division. I personally don't want to be someone who's craving to leave work at the end of the day. That's not the kind of life I want to live. Because it also makes you feel a bit like you're perhaps wasting your time a bit if you're not happy with what you're doing. I definitely feel that the reason I've decided to start a business is that they want that to be a major part of their life. So something they care about, passionate about and enjoy, or to become a thought leader in that particular industry. For me, I think it's a change in priorities. Whilst for some people their priorities at the moment might be to earn a lot of money, travel, party, I guess my priorities are very different, and so that immediate gratification and satisfaction isn't as important to me at the moment.
So why are you guys striking today?
The dominant reason being that we're having a contract imposed upon a large workforce that we wholly believe is not safe for the future of the NHS, and the spreading of services even more thinly than they are already at is going to be a danger to patients in the long term.
From the total amount of doctors working Monday to Friday, spread them more thinly over Monday to Sunday for the elective services, thereby fewer people working every day of the week, and that is not safe for patients, and it's definitely not safe for everyone else either.
So what advice would you give to young people, you know, both in school still and perhaps even at university, even studying medicine in their first few years?
Quite a worrying time for a lot of those people and a lot of us as well as to what the future holds. We hope from our action that we'll be able to preserve the career that is as satisfying as it once was and as safe as it should be.
So I mean, it's obviously very topical at the moment. Whilst of course there's a problem on the patient side, there's also at the moment a problem on the doctor side. The way it's impacted GPs is also quite substantial. GPs threatening mass resignation, that issue of feeling undervalued and not respected. The fact that they're feeling so unhappy and that many of them are considering, you know, moving careers, moving to other countries, I mean, that is becoming really tempting. Whilst the whole point of HealthClic is to give control back to the patients, but also on the doctor side, it's giving some control back to the doctor to say, yeah, I would like to work privately to complement my income on the weekdays. So I think it's sad.
It has always been the purpose of Chasing Unicorns to, at the very least, encourage a mindset which is open to challenging conventional thinking, as well as encouraging an alternate view on specific and important issues. But the issues which are dominating our news feeds and the public consciousness at this very moment cannot be ignored, and it would be grossly irresponsible to not take this opportunity to provide an alternate view. During the filming of this series, major socio-political events occurred, including the Brexit-winning EU referendum campaign, the political instability in the UK, the resignation of the Prime Minister, teachers' strikes, mass shootings in America.
Today marks the most deadly shooting in American history.
These events are mainly important because of the influence they have over the mindsets of young people. Most prominently, the EU referendum. This has caused great stir amongst the young political class, whether it was right or wrong to hold it in the first place, whether the tactics of either side was right or wrong, or even if the decision and result was right or wrong. These can be debated and argued endlessly, even across the Atlantic. Whether or not the laws on gun crime in America are right or wrong, it must not deter people away from the real issue, which is the ineffectiveness of the democratic and wider Western system. Politicized issues are important and influential young people, but what is more vital is not to get tangled up in the tittle-tattle, rumour mill, shouting matches that have come to dominate politics in the Western world, but instead to become intellectually and realistically, in terms of your finances and socially, independent of that system. By ignoring the white noise that emanates from the political environment, young people have the greatest freedom and opportunities to live a fulfilling life, help others, change or improve the system. Through people like Priyanka, whose business was adversely affected by the junior doctor strikes, an independent thought process was vital in order to provide a solution to any of the problems she encountered now or in the future. We as young people are now able to see false promises and ineffectiveness of the system that promised us a safe, equal and fair life. It is a system which has enslaved our minds. The independence of your mind and freedom of thought, expression and action are vital to combating the ineffectiveness and incongruence of that system to the modern day.
It's really changed the way I'm approaching the business. I'm trying to connect a lot more with the doctors and say, look, I'm someone who isn't a doctor, but I get you. And I'd really like to bring that out to the rest of the world.
Thank you.
I think there's quite a few lessons that I've learned over the last few months. So you have to be very self-confident in what you do. It's not like you're in a cohort with loads of other people doing the same thing. That's probably the most important part. It's making sure that you're self-confident and you're comfortable with your own company. And on a day-to-day basis, I'm not with a huge group of friends. That's something that you have to be strong about. Whilst all the support around you is quite important, I think you have to learn to just not care about that and not to rely on that. Yeah, basically. So you have to learn not to give a crap. Secondly, I guess some of the skills which perhaps throughout school, university, people will say, oh, that's not really as important, it's soft skills. But I think things such as presentation, sales, marketing, they are absolutely key if you're starting any kind of a business or just in the world nowadays. You are your own personal brand. Which brings me on to my last point. The idea of a personal brand is really important. Most people who are starting their own company, they really work hard at making sort of a name for themselves in a way as a thought leader in their own industry. When people meet you, they know that this person knows what they're talking about, they have insight into the industry, and you have to do your research there. Coupled with that comes the idea of self-development and personal growth is really, really important. And that's why I'm very grateful for the fact that I'm on a course with many entrepreneurs, people who've already been through this journey. They're always looking to better themselves, to grow and to learn. And I think that's the type of person I would aspire to be. I completely understand there are loads of issues in terms of finance and figuring out how exactly can I do this. Nowadays there are loads of ways to get financing for your idea. So Kickstarter, if you have an idea for a product or service, you can put it on there and people will literally say that yes, we will pay for this. And I think, this doesn't restrict itself to people wanting to start a business. Once you get into a comfortable job, a bit old when you have children, it is a lot tougher. So I think there's no best time to do it than when you're young and straight out of university. Life is too short to go and do something even for one day that you're not 100% into and you're not passionate about. Your time is way more precious and more valuable than any kind of salary you might exchange it for. And if it's your dream, you have to be the one to go out there and follow it and to make your life what you want it to be. What needs to be done is to have that extra level of faith in yourself and to just not accept anything less than the best for yourself, really.
So that was my meagre attempt at showcasing the world and the people around you. Now, whilst it does represent a small microcosm on this earth, each person, each idea, each episode discussed and portrayed made a vital contribution to the overall functioning of Chasing Unicorns, which is twofold. The first being interests. Now, following your interests is not some vague notion of following your passion, following your dreams. No. Instead, what interest really means is pursuing a path which is predicated upon and motivated by the drive to find answers and solutions to the questions and problems you have in the world. The second is critical thinking. Now, thinking critically is not the same as the pointless examinations we were forced to do as children. We are currently living in an age where our liberty and rights are on a knife edge. while we all buy into the Western promise of liberty and freedom, more and more it seems like our rights are being eroded, our choices narrowed, and our ideas discouraged. It has therefore never been a more critical time for young people of all backgrounds to ensure that they maintain a healthy skepticism about the world, that we consistently and critically think about the world around us, that we maintain an independent mode of thought, to ensure that our freedoms and rights that we take for granted are ensured and maintained. It is through these two important mechanisms, which I believe through my wealth of experience, knowledge and expertise, actually it's just an opinion, that young people can remain independent individuals whilst maintaining an influential and positive connection with the rest of the world. Whilst we face a multitude of problems, maintaining an independent mindset, one with the willingness to challenge conventional thinking and the desire to explore ideas, remains and will always remain the bedrock of societal progress, but also, and more importantly for chasing unicorns, will be the foundation of a fulfilling and happy life. It may do, if you're into that sort of thing.